And Durham police had an update today on efforts to address a rise in auto thefts. Project Attire is a dedicated unit focused on investigating and recovering stolen cars. It's in collaboration with Equitay Association, a nonprofit that works to eradicate insurance crime relating to auto theft.
So far, in 2024, we have seen an 8% decrease in auto thefts, and we are recovering more than 50% of stolen vehicles in our region. Unfortunately, we are still averaging 3 stolen vehicles a day. This number is still too high, and we are working very hard to bring this number down even more. Unfortunately, we've also seen a 13% increase in carjackings in our region so far this year, with 18 in the region compared to 16 this time last year.
Well, Equitay recently reported that due to the recent operational and efforts and collective efforts, we've seen a decrease by 14%. And although those numbers have been reduced, I do want to caution that the fight is not over. The numbers are still at crisis levels, and we all need to continue to combat vehicle theft. A vehicle in 2023 was stolen once every 12 minutes in Ontario, and Ontario is a prime target for organized crime due to its population, its high value of targeted vehicles, and its proximity to the eastern ports.
And for the latest details on this investigation, let's bring in CB24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. Steve, this is every single week, it seems like we're reporting on a new auto theft investigation by a police service somewhere. Tell us a little bit more about Project Attire and some of the results.
Well, the results are quite impressive. We heard the chief say that auto thefts are down, but they're still averaging 3 a day. Carjackings are up. That seems to be the flavor of the day when it comes to crimes. They're up 13% overall. But one thing that struck me with regards to what Chief Murrah said, he talked about recidivism, and that's been in the news quite often. I talked to many law enforcement managers who talk about repeat offenders, those who are out on bail, who continue to commit the same sort of offenses, and they refer to it as a revolving door. And that is something that chiefs of police said has got to stop when it comes to catching those who commit these crimes over and over again. Have to keep them in custody, and that certainly is not happening.
Now, clearly there's, people are calling for change. They want to stop this revolving door of criminals getting arrested and being let out that afternoon only to commit other serious offenses. The big question I have for you, what needs to change, and at what government level? Are we talking about provincial laws? Are we talking about federal laws? Because clearly, whatever we're doing right now is not working.
So we hear a lot about bail reform, and what I said often is we do not need bail reform. The legislation is already in place. There's authorities in place for the Crown to seek a detention order for protection of the public. So if there are violent offenses committed and the Crown's case is strong, they can ask that somebody be kept in custody. Repetition of the offense. If somebody's out on a couple of bails already, well, clearly they are repeating the same offenses over and over again. So the legislation is there. Now, the province says that it comes from a mandate, a policy that the feds issued in 2019, saying that most people are better served being back out into the community. The province is saying that the jail system, yes, it's crowded, and they are working on correcting that. But ultimately, both levels of government are pointing the fingers at one another. But I would say it comes from the federal level. It is federal legislation.
When you hear fellow officers, chiefs, other detectives who are involved in these investigations, you're a former homicide detective, I sense a level of frustration that, many of these officers, they're going out there, they're doing their jobs, they're catching the bad guys, and the bad guys get let out to just commit more crimes. How frustrating is it, do you think, from the perspective of many of these detectives who are spending, this Project Attire started in December 2023, so it's been on for about a year now. It's got to be frustrating when you're doing the work, you catch the bad guys, and they get let go just to commit more crimes.
Great point. And what that tends to do is have law enforcement turn off their earpieces when they hear, "We support the police," because showing support is demonstrating what you do with people who are arrested over and over again. If the cops are out there doing their job, making those arrests, and there's legislation in place to keep those violent offenders or repeat offenders in custody, and they're not being kept in custody, that we support the police sort of falls on deaf ears. And that's what law enforcement would like to see. And that is more enforcement of the legislation that is already in place when it comes to tougher sentences, repeat offenders staying in custody, that acting as a deterrent for others who may think of committing the same crimes.
We're going to have a lot more on this story. Thanks for the update, Steve.
You got it.